From Toronto, Canada, the hypnotic world epicenter, this is the Brain Software Podcast, episode 111. Today, we discuss toxicity, all kinds of it, so stay tuned. Hello, fellow smart people. It's good to have you on board the hypnotic gyrocopter once again. Honey Hallmark told me to tell you that she loves you, which could be problematic since I'm lying and she doesn't really exist.
We are not witches!
So let's welcome a man who does exist. A man of valor who never wears velour.
Never.
The single greatest response to his own self-absorbed genius. The human lightning rod of hypnotic power who takes no prisoners. Mike Mandel.
Yes, and that's my co-host, Chris Thompson.
That is.
Here we are live, and this is how we do it.
This is how we do it downtown.
Chris, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we have an entire podcast about toxic people. I know this was a topic you really wanted to do in more detail than we've done before.
And the reason why is because we all encounter toxic people. God forbid we become toxic people. We always have to make changes in our own behaviors to accommodate those around us. But there's different types of toxicity. I think this is worth unpacking today.
I think so too. So before we go into the main content, let's talk some quick banter about what's coming up. So we've got, first of all, by the time this goes live, it should be around October 26th, which if my scheduling and management is on track, that means
probably is.
This is the day that you are actually doing a keynote at the Canadian Hypnosis Convention.
Right.
Which is just by the Toronto airport. So that'll be happening today. If you're listening to this the day it's published, otherwise it's in the past.
Yes, I've been asked to
that's
give the
pretty
big
cool,
keynote.
which is amazing. So that's going to be fun and just so much fun. And we have our November Architecture of Hypnosis class in Toronto is completely sold out, but the May 2019 class is already filling up. And if you want to join us for 5 days of amazing hypnosis training in Toronto, I recommend you head on over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events and check it out because the price is going up January 1st. So you have a few more months before, well, the class probably won't be full until the new year anyway, but lock in your spot before we raise the prices.
You've been warned. And Chris, I want to talk to you about your little doggy. And
Ollie.
You've had some really interesting experiences with him lately, not the least of which
we've got a new puppy in this house.
An unusual food you bought him. Maybe you'd like to expound upon that for us.
Sure. So, as many of you know, I have overcome my dog allergy. We now have a puppy in the house. It's amazing. I've had absolutely zero reaction whatsoever. By the way, I was also at the family cottage. My in-laws have a family cottage near Haliburton, Ontario, and we spent the entire weekend around not only my dog, but another really shedding dog. I can't remember what breed it was, but one of those breeds that just sheds like crazy. I had zero reaction.
Are you serious?
Zero, Mike.
So that's great.
100%.
Allergies cleared. And let's give a shout out to our student and friend Nona in the UK, who just did an amazing allergy cure on a family member. Did you check this out?
No, tell me. I must have missed this post.
He had extreme nut allergies, pistachios, Brazil nuts, and I think hazelnuts. 3 types. Really bad, where he couldn't even be in the same room with them. His body would sense them.
Wow.
And she ran the allergy cure on him, never done it before, and they put a pistachio beside the kid while he was working on the computer. He didn't know. And then they said, do you know you've had a pistachio near you for 15 minutes? And he went, no. Then they opened a box of them and put them nearby, and he had no response. Now, we always recommend you go to your allergist and get retested. We're not saying to do this.
You're probably not going to get an anaphylactic reaction just from the presence of one.
And this was done with the parents. This was them helping. So then they said, do you want to touch one? And he said, yeah. And he handled one. Nothing.
Wow.
He put it in his mouth. He wound up eating all 3 kinds of nuts with zero reaction and said something like, they just don't taste very good. The allergy, Nona, our student, using the protocol we teach, completely erased this kid's nightmare.
That is allergy. Phenomenal.
So, blessings to you, girl. You did a great job.
And, lots of people teach this methodology. It's the DILT's, it's a DILT's protocol, right? Robert Diltz, I think came up with it?
No, I think DILT's did the one foreground and background. which is more the one I think that William Woods is doing. But it's a great protocol. It's just a classic NLP.
Okay, so I could be wrong about who originally created it, but it is a classic NLP technique. We have a video on this. If you were to Google search Mike Mandel Allergy Cure. I'm sure you're going to find it.
And it's not my own.
And I'll link to it in the podcast
connected.
notes as well, which will always be on the podcast portion of our website. So it's just that we teach it. We talked about it on the podcast. We have video that we produced about it, and it works.
The immune system. The interesting thing is, Chris, the reason this is noteworthy for me is you've gotten over, completely erased your dog allergy. Nona has had her nephew, whoever he was, completely erased his nut allergy.
Our friend Rob got rid of his.
He got rid of his lilac and plant allergy.
Yeah.
And William Wood, our friend, has run the allergy cure on me for my anaphylactic shock with the wasp stings. So I'm completely confident that I could be stung with alarming frequency.
So it's an amazing thing. Anyway, we now have a puppy in the house. It's like having a newborn baby. Essentially, I've raised two newborns before, real humans, and I've never raised a pet like this before. It's brand new to us. It's just as much work. Anyway, we hired a dog trainer, fantastic guy. This guy Lane, he came in for about 2 hours he spent with us, and he taught us so many amazing tricks that, quite honestly, I want to give a shout out to what we learned when we had Melissa Tears in town about how the brain learns. Do you know there's just so much about the neurology and the training of a puppy or any kind of animal that relates so clearly to how addictions and cravings and anxieties work. All this stuff is so related. Anyway, this trainer just did an amazing job. And we were telling him how we had treats, because treats are a great reward that you can use when you're training your puppy. But we had these treats that the puppy just didn't seem to have any interest in. So he says to us, "Oh, you need to get a pizzle stick. They love that." I said, "Oh, pizzle stick, what's that?" He said, "Oh, it's just like an organic, it's a 100% beef product. Dogs love them." I said, "100% beef?" I said, "I like beef. Sounds like something I would like." He goes, "I'm not so sure. It's made out of dehydrated bull penis." Seriously. So,
well, at least someone's found a use for the damn thing.
So now my little puppy is running around chewing on dehydrated bull penis a lot of the time, which is just hilarious. So
this is family friendly, but that is just too weird for words.
All right. So what's going on with you, Mike?
Have you taken it upon yourself? Have you examined these to any degree? Like how closely does it resemble the
you wouldn't know
item? I mean, a McDonald's burger, I'll eat a burger, because it doesn't resemble the original animal. I couldn't eat rabbit or something, so it looks like
it does not look anything like
the privy member of a bull.
It doesn't.
Okay,
no, it looks like a cinnamon stick almost. Just
okay, too much information. I like cinnamon sticks up to that moment. Let us continue. So, where are we going now, buddy?
Oh well, let's see.
I want to ask you the dinner guest question.
Okay,
and I'd like our. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna put a contest out there.
All right.
But first, let me just.
A contest.
I'll give you the dinner guest.
Are there going to be prizes?
Yeah, we'll make it something simple. The dinner guest question tells us a lot about people's personality, and the question is: if you could have any 10 people for a catered dinner, a beautiful Downton Abbey style dinner, plus yourself, any people from history, who would you pick?
Oh, man.
And it's interesting because in my own case, I'd be picking, Samuel Johnson, the greatest conversationalist of all time, Oscar Wilde for his wit. I'd want Glenn Gould there just because he was so freaking brilliant. I'd want Dave Ambrose, of course, so we could have some physics discussions.
Elon Musk.
Even though I wanted to predict he would be on your list.
Of course he's going to be on my list.
Fantastic. And then
Steve Jobs, perhaps?
No. Well, yeah, not Bill Gates, though.
No.
The giant ball of tape. But here's my question to all of you. The best lists that we get sent in, send it to info@mikemandelhypnosis.com, dinner guest list, call it that. Send us your 10 people you would like to have at a dinner party.
And
now,
maybe a brief, do you want a brief explanatory paragraph?
The reason why. Now,
if you write us a dissertation.
Bieber is on your list.
You're immediately deleted.
You're deleted immediately.
Now, hold on. Let's just put some context around this then. We want so info@mikemandelhypnosis.com, because that goes to both of us.
Yeah.
The 10 people. And any text explanation? Put some criteria, because we don't want people writing us an encyclopedia.
You want interesting people. Just give me a brief explanation why each one, even a line on each one. Like I'd pick Glenn Gould because he was a brilliant musician.
Mm-hmm.
I'd pick Angus Young because he's the greatest rock star in history. But now I'm starting to weight it too much in music. So I said Samuel Johnson, who was a brilliant conversationalist, Britain's greatest mind. Maybe Isaac Newton, the greatest scientist of all time. So just flesh it out. And let's say the ones we think are the most interesting, why don't we send them...
A deck of the Ericksonian language pattern cards.
Hypnosis in a box.
We will send you actually, let's do two things. We'll give them what we're developing, which is the ultimate hypnosis starter kit. One deck of cards, which we ship to you at our cost. You pay nothing.
Yep.
And the Nuvi
Ericssonian
not the Nuvi app, because we can't gift you the app. It's $3 in the App Store. But the course that comes with it, the Nuvi course.
45 minutes of training.
Yeah, so we'll give you both of those.
So we'll take the 3 best lists and we'll publish your names, and then we'll get your address and we'll send it to you.
If you make us read more than a couple of minutes worth of text, then we're going to delete you. So if it's a page of explanation, we're not going to count it. If you give us no explanation,
there's a very good chance that you'll win.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so that's fun for a contest. Now, what's next?
Okay, now, Chris, what are you going to do? The bull penis contest?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not, Mike. That was pretty funny, though. I like that.
We'll edit that out. I'm just looking at our notes and just seeing bull penis.
We're definitely not editing that out.
Okay, the think tank word of the day, Chris.
Oh, okay.
And this was completely random. I promise you, the word is missionary. Calling Dr. Freud.
Oh, okay. Maybe we are going to have to edit that out. No, missionary.
Well,
I don't know. What does that mean to you, Mike?
I always answer this. Chris, it means a number of things. First of all, a missionary is someone who proselytizes for a religious or spiritual cause. So you can have a Buddhist or Christian or Muslim missionary to another country who is bringing their beliefs. So what does that say to you in light of hypnosis?
Oh, bringing new beliefs, bringing their beliefs.
Bringing enlightenment. Is that what we're doing with hypnosis with this podcast?
Yeah, perhaps.
Are we spreading the neo-spirituality of the hypnotic world epicenter to the world?
You know, here's the super quick, serious response is, if everybody can take on an awesome attitude of having fun, living a great life, helping other people, and you can bring that core belief into everything that you do, all the interactions that you have with other people, imagine how great things would be for everyone else. Yeah. Now you're just dying to say something funny here. Yeah.
I am, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
It's about bull penises.
Oh, no. That's the theme.
Okay.
I think we know the name of this podcast already, don't we?
There's other obvious references to it that we're not going to go to. But,
all right. Let's get on.
Let's depart from that. Let's talk about toxic people.
Now, you have a list of 12 here, just to pre-frame it.
But I just want to talk about toxic people.
No, we're going to get through every single one of them.
Toxic people, my definition is people who basically, by their very presence, behavior in your life, make your life somewhat less enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's just who they are. It's their identity. But in any case, I'm very, very time selfish, as Chris will tell you. I don't like to, I can be very solitary. I don't like toxic people in my life. And basically, I will fire them. And I'll do the 3 strikes and you're out typically. Anybody can be dinkish once, but twice and 3 times. And I'm not going to take it. But by the way, Chris, you're at 0 strikes.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to ask.
See the tension.
How did you know?
See the tension there. But let's start with passive aggressives because they drive me freaking nuts, to use the medical term.
All right. Now, before we go into any of this, though, would you say that a toxic person is a parasite?
Not necessarily.
Do they feed? So they're not necessarily parasitical.
No.
Okay.
But they just make your life not fun. You know, they can just cause problems. For example, passive aggressives. That's a very, very common trait. Almost everyone does some passive aggression. I've even caught my wife occasionally being passive aggressive. And it'd be like if we were rushing to the opera or something, which happens very frequently in my household, rushing operas. And I'd be in the car's revving. I'm pathologically on time because I'm an Enneagram 8. I dominate time, so time does not dominate me. So she's a 6. And she's more concerned about ensuring that the alarm is on and the bars are on all the windows and the hounds are activated and the laser.
There are fresh 9-volt batteries in the kitchen.
So I'm in the car, we're running late, and she'll come out and she pauses and she looks at how the flowers are doing and there's pebbles.
Just to annoy you.
No, but she says she does. I say, are you intentionally going slowly? She said, no, I'm not. I said, well, it seems like that. So anyway, she doesn't do it much now, but the classic line you'll get from passive aggressives is, oh, I thought you meant. Oh, I didn't. Oh, I forgot. They will use, because of an internal anger that they cannot verbalize. And I know you can verbalize anger. You verbalize it so much. I'm practically traumatized. I've done a lot of self-work. But there's the whole thing of this internal anger that comes out passively. So instead of doing things against you, they don't do things.
Oh.
I'll give you an example. Many years ago, about 20 odd years ago, I was going through a major crisis in my life. And a good friend of mine who I had forgotten was passive aggressive. Enneagram 9s can be very passive aggressive. You're not, which is great. But I phoned him. I was out walking in freezing rain, had a huge fight with my wife. It was a very bad time in our marriage. And I said, it was like 20 odd years ago. So I'm walking in this freezing rain. I called him up on my cell phone and he said, come over right now. He said, I said, well, I can't. I'm outside walking. I'm not even at home. I told him where I was and he said, tell you stay at that corner. He said, I'll come and pick you up, bring you to my place. Have a hot drink. We'll talk. So I was so glad. And I stood on this corner in the freezing rain and 45 minutes he had not showed up.
Wow.
And I phoned him and I said, where are you? And he said, oh, are you there now? That's typical passive aggression. So I know now after the fact that he was very passive aggressive. And that was just it. He pretended he didn't know I was there so he could keep me standing in the rain. And that's a classic. I can see the anger on your face. You can sense it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like if people are doing this crap to you, oh, I thought you meant.
That bothers me because communication should be clear enough that it's easily understood.
Could you put that another way?
Not misunderstood in any obvious way.
Right.
And that's pretty. Stay right there. I'm coming to get you.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
Hard to misunderstand that.
Yeah, I could have walked to his house in the time that I spent standing in freezing rain, and he knew it. And but worse than passive aggressives are covert aggressives.
Okay, so what's a covert aggressive?
Aggressives have gone beyond just dragging their feet. Passive aggressives drag their feet. They don't give people your message. Oh, I forgot. Oh, I didn't think. But covert aggressives will actually work against you as well. In
a sneaky manner?
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Okay.
And Heather worked at a wonderful bookstore, McNally Robinson, in Toronto years ago. And there was a woman there. And she was covert aggressive and basically worked behind the scenes to turn people against my wife.
This is the so-called best friend who might say something to your colleagues about how you have a drinking problem or would make something up about you.
Or even more subtly, Chris. They'll say something like, well,
he's always late.
I shouldn't say. I shouldn't say.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, and I always say, then don't. Mm-hmm. I head it off and say, well, it's just, I hope he's not drinking again. I shouldn't say. The implication is the guy's got a drinking problem.
Right.
This is covert aggression. Yeah. It's to get other people on side with them, and it's to work against you. And it's one of the ways to undo this type of personality. They call them the sniper. The snipers will sit in the background, take shots at you. They make sarcastic comments. They'll try to take you down in the eyes of other people. And the way you deal with it is by unmasking it. You flush them into the open. You say, oh, that's kind of an interesting sarcastic comment. I wonder what you're dealing with in your own life that you got to take a shot at me. Oh, I just bring it right into the open and nail the SOB in front of everybody. Yeah,
that's not so much a covert aggressive tactic, but, I have two daughters, and in the morning, not so much now that we have this puppy because their attention is all on him, but they would often fight with each other and argue and, take each other down.
Which one actually owns the dog, though? Chandra or
Nice. So they would take shots at each other sometimes. And I would remind them, listen, we do not tear each other down here. We don't bring people down in this house. We bring them up. And one daughter actually said to the other day, you're a basement person. She accused my other daughter of being a basement person. Stop bringing me down. Yes. You're a basement person.
And that's it. Basement people will drag you down to their level. They hate it when you progress in life, and balcony people will lift you up. Guys, if it's nothing else from this podcast, listen to what he just said. Watch out for the basement people. Hang around people who lift you up, and you can lift them up. It's the best way to live.
It is. The reason I brought that up is because it was the calling it out into the open, right? So calling hey, what you just said, that's not helpful. That's not useful in any way. You're just trying to bring this other person down, and good people don't do that.
Yeah.
You call someone on that, right? How are they going to respond?
Yeah.
Like, it's very difficult to go, oh, well, no, you really deserved it. Yes. No, everyone knows that's
calling
true.
People, Adam, our good friend who's the British Jiu-Jitsu master, hard as nails. He came out to hear me speak years ago. I did a thing at a church, actually our home church 20 years ago. And I taught the entire Old Testament in 1 hour. The entire Tanakh in 1 hour. And anyway.
Wish you could do that for my second-year thermodynamics class when I was in engineering school.
I get to the end of it. It's entropy. All you got to think about is entropy. So the minister, who was passive-aggressive, absolutely. At the end of it, the talk, he says, this is how he thanked me. He said, well, I have a professor in university, and he was really funny and really knew the scriptures, and I'd like to get him in sometime to teach. That was his thanks to me. And Adam yells, what do you think you just got? Like, he shouts this out in the church.
Yeah, of course. That would be so Adam. I'm saying
taking a shot at me.
Yeah. And Adam was calling him on it.
Yeah, calling him on it. But it's people who are afraid to praise you because they're afraid that it takes them down. Let's talk about bullies. That's another kind of toxic person.
Well, yeah. And, of course, this is a a near and dear one to my heart with kids going through school and social media nowadays.
Right.
A lot of kids get bullied on social media. So, but in terms of the classic definition of bullying, what are you thinking here?
I'm thinking of people who intimidate by their presence, who make people afraid to go to school, like all of that. Even in businesses, you'll get bullies in organizations.
That's
and
true.
They just be aggressive and, nobody wants to stand up to them.
And there can be a bit of a crowd mentality too, right? Where if somebody like the covert aggressive pollutes the mind of a bunch of other colleagues, then all of a sudden there can be bullying going on at work.
That's a different kind of bullying. You're right. That's covert aggression can be bullying too. And that was one of the things that...
It can result in bullying.
It can. Right. That's one of the things that happened to my wife when she was working at this wonderful shop that is no longer there. I said, you've got to understand how people frame things is how they'll get you. So I said, if Heather would walk in the room and say, I'm just making this example up. So she'd walk in and say something like, oh, where is everybody? Like in the lunchroom, they're not there. Then this covert aggressive woman would tell it to everyone later, something like, oh, Heather drives me nuts. She comes in today and goes, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Making you sound stupid. The way she says it, right?
Yeah.
And you got to really be careful of that. Bullying, with me being an Enneagram 8, I was bullied as a child incessantly, beaten up constantly. And now I can't stand for it. I just go right after them.
Yeah. And if there's just one, I suppose you could just deal with it head on. If there's many, go after the alpha.
Always point out the bad behavior.
Don't
point
it out.
The person, but point out the bad behavior and don't accept it. Never reward bad behavior.
You're going after the behavior. You're describing the behavior that's inappropriate rather than the person. You're not ad hominem attacking the person and saying, "Oh, you're just a real bad person. You're a meanie." This is not okay. The way that you're treating me is not cool, and I don't think anybody else in this room would feel that they'd want to be treated that way. Like that. Would you?
No.
Right? Yeah, no, of course not.
A lot of this, Chris, comes from, when I was 2 seasons on CBC television when I was the communications guy, and a lot of this stuff came out then. One that I can't stand is mockers. People who will make you look stupid in front of a group.
Yeah, there's mockers.
By elevating themselves, like they'll mock your behavior or something or what you're wearing, and my... counter to it, I really like, because it never fails. They get everyone sort of nervously laughing, and they're taking a shot at you, trying to push if they can take you down, they're lifting themselves up by default, apposition of opposites.
So we were talking this is another classic one that could happen for school age kids. I know a lot of people listening probably have kids, and oh, you always wear the secondhand clothes or whatever it is.
Everyone laughing.
Yeah. Did you make your own shirt?
Now here's the antidote, the Mandel antidote. You look at them and you smile as though you have something on them, and you say, "Oh, sounds like someone's dealing with some personal issues here," and then look at everyone else as though you're looking at them knowingly that this is something you have all discussed before. Oh, it shoots them down in flames. Listen to your laugh. Thank you, Chris.
I love it.
And as soon as Chris stops channeling Satan, we will resume.
Let me practice that. I won't practice it. I like that, though.
But
it looks like somebody has some personal issues here.
We've got to go to a word from our sponsor.
Yeah, we do. And then we're going to come back and we're going to finish this list because there's lots of awesome stuff on here.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Tonight on the Gus Grissom Network, Sandra and Jeff Silverstein are a young couple who are moving up. After winning $8 million in the Rudy Giuliani New York State Truth Isn't Truth Anymore lottery, they moved to Malibu Beach to enjoy the life of the idle rich. Their new home is a magnificent modern bungalow and just perfect, although there is an ancient dried-up hawthorn tree in the middle of their front lawn. Shortly after their move to California, disaster strikes. In the middle of writing a gloating, "We love being rich" greeting card to her best friend Honey, Sandra's favorite gel pen runs out of ink, and Jeff accidentally roasts his penis while barbecuing sausages. Just when it seems like their lives are ruined, things get even worse. Sandra falls asleep while watching the season's final episode of You're Still Just Danny and misses the ending where Danny stabs his father to death with a pencil. Then, Jeff gets a threatening phone call from the local hospital's collection department. It turns out that the burn ointment the penisologist applied to his glands was made from diamond extract, and he now owes a staggering $14.6 million. But overnight, something wonderful happens. The The lawn tree blooms, filling the air with the scent of lavender. Now everything will be all right again. And the lawn tree blooms, ba 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 ba. And the lawn tree blooms, ba 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 ba. And the lawn tree blooms, the lawn tree blooms, and the lawn tree blooms,
and the lawn tree blooms. I look out of my room.
He looked out of his room,
and the lawn tree blooms.
Yes, that lawn tree bloomed
out on the dune with my
lawn tree
raccoon. The lawn tree blooms, gonna buy a baboon. Okay, let's talk about downers. And these are people who are not necessarily toxic in a nasty way, but just their very demeanor will bring you down. And I think I mentioned this in a podcast a couple of years ago. We had a friend whose husband left her, got another woman after a few years of marriage, took off to Western Canada, and she could not get through her head that he was gone. And she phoned my wife and I, for not for counseling, but just to complain. I'm not exaggerating, Chris. 7 days a week for nearly 3 months, and would talk for 1 to 4 hours and just say, well, he still hasn't come back. and we'd just go on, and we could never get through. Now I wouldn't take
so
that.
So this is not a... Yeah, this is not in any way, shape, or form a parasite type of person. Of
course not.
This is the type of person who's just so stuck in their negative state.
Yes.
Stuck with the why questions. Why is my life so horrible? Why did he leave me? Why doesn't he see what a great person I am? Why is my life going to be crappy for the rest of my life now? Why is this happening to me?
Why?
Right.
Yep.
So you're completely that person would be completely stuck in that stuck state.
I didn't have the tools back then. This is many years ago. To get her out of that.
How do you
was
deal
like
with
the late 80s.
You got really two choices here, though. You can either attempt to help the person or disconnect.
Yeah, so
and if it's somebody that you love, you don't really want to disconnect from the downer. The worst, though, is we've had friends who've listened to this podcast, who've come to our training, who've maybe been married to the downer and ended up realizing this person isn't someone I want to spend the rest of my life with. And that's horrible, sad to think about. But in some cases, I suppose that's what has to happen.
I've got a friend, and he's not one anymore. His name was Richard, but he was just so annoying and complaining all the time. I just started calling him Bitchard. That became his name. I never said it to his face, but when he hears this podcast, he'll know it was him.
He'll know.
But he drove me nuts. I called him Bitchard in my mind.
Man.
It's like I'm not the kind of guy, Chris, who just snip and you're gone out of my life. It's going to take quite a bit.
So what would you do? What are some strategies here for people when they don't want to disconnect from the downer? They want to help the person. Because
then you have to start moving towards target state.
Yeah.
What do you want? Well, I want him to come back. Is that possible? Well, probably not. Then you have...
Do you have any control over this situation?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Okay, so you have control over other things in your life. What do you have control over?
Right.
How you talk to yourself?
Yeah, what are you saying to yourself? The thing is about control. Now we're to the whole thing of control freaks, and control freaks aren't necessarily toxic.
Yeah, and this isn't even on our list, is it?
No, that's why I didn't put them on. They're not necessarily toxic, but people control in, as my wife says, the Enneagram student extraordinaire said, people control in 9 different ways.
Yeah,
depending on their typology, right?
Speaking of control, I recently was working with a young woman on anxiety.
Okay.
And one of the things that would cause her some anxiety...
Are you helping her or was she helping you?
So this woman had a situation with one of her kids, and the kid was, let's just describe it as not making good eating choices, and the mom really wanted the kid to make better eating choices, and it was causing the mom a lot of anxiety that she could not control her child's eating situation.
Right.
And one of the things that I did was to reframe this, and in a sense, symptom prescription. I prescribed control of being able to give up control.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, because it makes a lot of sense, right? And the way I started reframing the need for control was, and you want your child to be able to grow up and be in control as well, just as you like to be in control. Isn't that
yourself,
right? And in order to be in control of her gaining that control, what do you have to do? And she realized immediately, I have to be able to give up some of that control. That's right. And you have to be able to give up a certain level of control and be in control of how much control you give up.
Yeah, very nice.
And so, of course, then this was designed right into the hypnotic intervention. And I did a lot of direct suggestion around prescribing giving up the right level of control to be able to benefit from that. And, all kinds of cool stuff. But this is just a little side note I thought I'd bring up.
Now, that's a very good one. We're not going to have time to go through all these. I just wanted some classic examples. Let me talk to you, because we're running out of time here. We got a lot to do still. One of the things I wanted to mention was people who I call them networkers. And by that, I mean professional networkers. What I mean by that is they only want your friendship if they get something from you.
Oh, yeah. Just to know nuts. You're the guy I can go to whenever I need help. And I'm the guy you can go to when you need, electrical work done in your home or something.
Heather made friends with somebody at a conference. And
never offering anything back.
Nothing back. They seemed to be very good friends. And then it turned out she just wanted Heather to do a bunch of stuff for this conference. And so she did. And then the woman disappeared.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, she suddenly emails her and said, I want to get back in touch. I've just written a book and I'd like you to promote it for me. She didn't even answer the email. But,
just those are takers. Basically, you're takers. Describing a taker,
professional
right?
Professional takers. But they add you to their network of things they can get, of people they can get stuff from. Remember Paul Pacific? That's his real name. Friend of mine, professional mentalist, excellent mentalist, super nice guy. Him and Michael C. Anthony and I hang out. We have M3 meetings, we call them, whenever we can. And Paul had connected with this guy who was quite big in the NLP field. And the man was interested in mentalism. And he said to Paul, I want to have this huge barbecue at my house. And I want to have you over for dinner. And Paul said, that's really nice. And Paul's a single guy. That'll be a fun evening. And the guy said, and you can teach me all your mentalism. He got off the phone and Paul he didn't feel right about it. This is his career. So he phoned him back.
What a bait, too. Oh, come on over to my house. We'll have a barbecue. It'll be wonderful. Yeah, I'd love to. And you can teach me mentalism.
I think he even said all your mentalism stuff.
Yeah, since when did that come in?
And Paul's a very gentle guy. And he nicely said, I appreciate what you're asking me. But he said, I don't feel right about giving my profession away, just giving it to someone.
Can you imagine inviting a Harvard-trained lawyer over and, you can teach me everything you know about law.
Sort out our will. Yeah. So the guy said when Paul said this to him, he said, barbecue's off.
Okay.
Thanks again. Never saw him again.
And good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Exactly. What now? Let's go through just a couple more of these, we'll see if we can say a few words about all of them. Let's do some hyperspeed here. Then, what's an emotional overloader?
Emotional overload is just somebody whose emotional states become your life if you're not careful.
How do you deal with it?
They can be by disconnecting largely.
Okay. You have to.
I can't do it.
Give me a good example.
Just chronic depressives.
Okay. How does it differ from a downer?
A downer is someone, it's specifically, they can put it down on every situation by finding the cup being half empty. But it's not an emotional overload. The people who just sob.
So the emotional overload just brings their crap into everything.
It becomes the world.
Yeah.
And that's type for Enneagram 4, it's typical, where they cannot distinguish between their emotional states and the universe.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, I agree with you.
It becomes too much of a wear. Targets. People who are targets it's actually, I've got schlemiels and schlemazels here too, which are Yiddish words. Even though I'm a Presbyterian, I know the words. A schlemiel is somebody who goes through life spilling soup on people.
Oh.
And a schlemazel is someone who goes through life having soup spilled
on them.
And the schlemazel is the target. They're the sad sacks. Everything goes wrong. Why me? Oh, this is gone. Now this is screwed up. Do you want to go to a movie? Oh, there won't be any parking. This always happens. They're the professional victims. You got to be careful. But schlemiels are bad too. My wife had a friend, I've told this before.
Is this the wine spilling
threw
one?
The wine on
literally spilling soup on someone, but in this case, wine.
And that's actually a personality thing you can look up.
Yeah.
And they do it because they internally feel guilty to get in trouble. To punish themselves. It's nuts.
Really weird.
It's just effed. Can we say effed?
Yeah, you can say effed. It's not a swear word.
No, it isn't.
It's a clean, we rate this show as clean.
You just got to get rid of that stuff. Another one is projectionists. Projectionists are people who see their stuff on you.
Yeah.
So if they're anxious all the time, they're telling you that you're anxious.
Yeah.
Or if they're really mad about something, they'll put it on you. And you've got to be really, really wary of wearing somebody else's emotions.
Just generally, the idea of projecting some emotional state on another person is not a good idea. It's not effective communication.
People say, you're an underachiever. You're not doing enough with your life. And it's really projection in a lot of cases. They feel they've not done enough with their life. And
let's talk about how is projecting different than mind reading, right? So mind reading is, well, you're saying that because
right. Mind reading is a meta model violation or a Milton model.
Right.
Positive. But projection is taking bad stuff. It can be good though. It can be good stuff too, but taking bad stuff about ourselves.
Making a prediction.
Projecting it onto another person because then it's safe to attack it. So if someone feels stupid all the time, they'll attack someone for being stupid because that's how they feel. They don't want to own the emotion, so they put it out there. It's easier to attack it.
Okay.
Weird, eh?
Yeah, got you.
Which leads us to flatterers. One of the worst. One of the absolute worst. Enneagram type 2 can be prone to flattering people. Flattery is where you're giving comments and compliments that sound ostensibly positive, but they're purely to stroke your ego and to get something. They're not coming from a sincere heart. And it's in my nature that if I give someone a compliment, it's because I really mean it. And a friend of mine, who is a friend of yours as well, his wife said once to my wife, "Oh, Mike says all this stuff. He's just a flatterer, isn't he?" And actually, she was one. She was projecting.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
And my wife said, "No, like he means what he says. Like if he says he thinks that's a really good thing you did or whatever, it's genuine. But really beware if people just flatter you and stroke your ego. You'll see narcissists, the next on our list, the final one here, bombing you with love. A narcissist gets into a new relationship. They'll tell you how wonderful you are, how great you look, your clothes are perfect, your jobs, and they bomb you with this love and affection to get control of you. And so if it sounds too good, you need to step back and be careful because you could be just the object of flattery. And it's a very, very strong thing in human nature that we will give in to flatterers because we all like to have our egos stroked.
Do you know what this reminds me of for whatever reason? Well, I know exactly why. Maybe, I don't know how many years ago. But yeah, I was living in my very first house in Toronto at the time. So it would have been maybe 2003-4 time frame. And I was listening to a program from Tony Robbins. It was the Get the Edge program. I remember I was washing my car. It was a nice summer day. And I was listening to the audio program on my headphones while I was washing the car. And the lesson was on how to give compliments effectively. Good compliments that people will really receive richly and feel good about, not compliments that come across like this flattery. And the idea was simply say something, first of all, say something meaningful, and then give the reason why you're saying that. So, Mike, I find that in these podcasts, you really share a lot of important information. And the reason that I say that is because I get all the emails of people who send in and their thanks on how these podcasts have changed their lives. So I think that's wonderful. And just thanks for that. And I hope you keep recording these podcasts with me. That would be an example, right? Here's the thing that I'm complimenting. And then the formula. Here's the compliment. And I say that because.
Right.
And I don't remember if that's the full formula or if there's another step, but it is a good one. I really like how you do your hair. And I say that because I see so many of the same hairstyles all over the place. And I love how yours is unique and you put your own personal spin on it.
Oh, that's nice.
And you stand out in the crowd as a result of that.
And that's really personalizing it and giving the rationale behind it. I love it. That's great. So let's move away from the toxic people and disconnect if you have to. Don't take this stuff.
Exactly.
And Chris, why don't you give us today's empowering questions?
All right. Here is the empowering question for episode 111 of Brain Software. Ask yourself, in what ways am I toxic to others? And what will I do today to change my behavior? How will I today, after taking personal inventory, change what I do to become who I need to be?
Wow. Powerful stuff, buddy.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Really, really important because I'm sure that all of us are in some ways toxic in some of our relationships.
That's right. We should always be moving towards greater
cleansing yourself of the toxicity.
Well, let me give you today's Meta 5, and I'll give it to you briefly because we're running a bit late. In 2000, I believe it was 2001, Paul Moyer, mutual friend, he and I went to a Christian rock festival in Bushnell, Illinois called Cornerstone, which is an hour south or 2 hours south of Chicago. We drove there from Toronto. We stayed at this festival with 20,000 other people, saw all these bands, hung out with, people who were really cool, very interesting, shared beliefs. It was just a blast, but the music was amazing. But the final night before we came home, we were sitting up late, and Moyer had brought a van, and we'd set up a tarpaulin outside with a couple of lawn chairs so we could sit there. And you couldn't have any booze or anything because it was this, limited what you could bring into this conference or to this festival. So we're just sitting there having a, cold drink of something, pop or something late at night. And it's about 1:30 in the morning. And Paul kept joking about UFOs and because he's obsessed with them. And everybody else is asleep. We're in the boonies part. We're way out of the main center, and it's farm country. And Paul says, "Oh, look, a craft." And I turn around, and it's a firefly going by, and it's a big joke. Oh, he's calling it craft, short for spacecraft now. It's Paul. About 2 minutes later, I'm looking over his shoulder, and I said, "Look!" I jump to my feet. He jumps to his feet, and 3 orange balls of light are hovering over farm country, a couple of miles from us, maybe 1,000 feet in the air, in a line. And we start walking towards them. One of them divides into 2, and now there's 4 balls of light hovering in a row. Then a 5th one comes flying in from the background, slams on the brakes, and stops in the line. And all 5 of them move independently of each other. And then in a line, they dip down behind the hills. And we were totally freaked out. We watched them for maybe 30 seconds. And Moyer said, everybody else is asleep. Moyer said, I waited my entire life for this. And we started Googling orange lights over Illinois and found all kinds of stuff on them from police and so on, all at the same time in July 2001.
Fascinating. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Brain Software, episode 111 with Mike Mandel, and I'm Chris Thompson. Make sure you head over to MikeMandelHypnosis.com, grab the Brain Software ebook, which is on the homepage. You can just download it right from there. It's amazing. It'll change your life. If you like this podcast, you're going to love that. And you can always check out our live events at the events page, which is MikeMandelHypnosis.com/events. And thank you to Mike Mandel for not interrupting me when I was giving out a URL. And we will talk to you again in the next episode.
Thanks again. And
good night.
Mr. Thompson, I've been telling you the most remarkable story of Henry Squatter, the secret agent.
No, I don't think I've heard that one. Secret agent.
It's a wonderful story. It must have been... I'm thinking it must have been 1917. The war had gone on for a long, long time. And Lady Melbury used to pop round with her husband, Lord Melbury, to cheer the troops. And Lord Melbury would go and play backgammon with some of the men and drink brandy. And Lady Melbury would have Bryce Morgan over to a tent. And after about 20 minutes, we'd hear the usual triumphant shout of sexual victory. And then Bryce Morgan would come back looking sheepish and bringing a bottle of brandy. We're sitting in Peter Fitzwadsworth's wonderful hut. Not much of a hut, really. Some Weetabix boxes stapled together and painted with malt vinegar. And we had a fire going in the fireplace. Not much of a fireplace, really. Just some red cellophane with a candle behind it. We're all sitting there, and I remember Ray Houston and Guy Billiam came in late, also bringing in brandy they brought somehow, who knows where they got it. And I sat with Johnny Leifimniotwo and Johnny Walkman and Johnny Suleiman Clast Philo Aravantave, and Bryce Morgan was holding court, and he was quite funny chap. And just then Squatter came in out of the rain, and he warmed his hands over the piece of red cellophane. And Bryce Morgan was telling a story. He said, "Do you know who Dr. John Dee was?" And we said, D like the letter. He said, no, D-E-E, it was his name. We didn't know. He said, he was Queen Elizabeth I, head of secret security services in Britain. He founded MI5, the British Military Intelligence Department 5. The symbol was a black triangle with an eye in the middle of it. We didn't know that. But he said, you're right, Bryce Morgan told us all. He said he was actually a member of the Secret Service. And they were looking to recruit other men. And Squatter was rather interested. He said, well, what's involved in this? He said, well, you'd be working for Her Majesty and there'd be certain perks, but you'd have to have a mission. He said, you'd get one of these, though. And he took out this black badge, triangular with an eye in the middle, MI5 on it. Squatter was all very keen on this. And he said, well, what do I have to do? He said, well, I'll give you a mission, and if you pass it, we'll give you one of these badges. So about 3 nights later, Bryce Morgan called Squatter, and we're all holding court. And he said, here, we've got a mission for you. Put on this German uniform. And he said, well, what do you want me to wear this thing for? He said, it's all right, put it on. I'm going to lead you through a series of tunnels over to the German side. I want you to spy about in that uniform, find out what food they've got, what alcohol they have, if there's anything worth bargaining for, and where their weapons cache is kept. We're going to be doing a big push within a month or so. Swat said, all right. So Bryce Morgan got him all dressed up in this uniform. He said, here's a phrase you need to know if you run into any Germans. You need to say, Du bist ein Schornstein Fegermeister Mensch. He said, I won't be able to remember that, Bryce Morgan. He said, Du bist ein Schornstein Fegermeister Mensch. He said, here, have some brandy. It'll help you remember. It's cold out there. And he poured an enormous tumbler of brandy and got Squatter to drink it. And we got staggering drunk. Bryce Morgan took him down through the trenches, opened a secret door. Not much of a door, really. Just some tissue stapled together, sprayed with malt vinegar. And Squatter went into the trenches and wandering miles he went with a candle in front of him, practicing Du bist ein Schornstein Fegermeister Mensch. And he curved and went round and finally came up above ground, pushed a trap door, and he saw these loads of food and things. And he thought, okay, let's have a look around and I'll get back over to the British side. Just then a man yelled, halt, who goes there? He was in British territory, in a German uniform. And he yelled, Du bist ein Schornstein Fegermeister Mensch, which means you're a master chimney sweep. The man said, shut your cake hole, Fritz, and fired at him. Squatter started running, and he fell down the hole of the latrine. It was disgusting down there. He was traumatized, though. He had shell shock. He wouldn't come up for 3 days. We had to throw food down to him. Funniest damn thing.